Hello, hello. Welcome to What's Working Now. I am your host, Katie Richardson. We have Amanda Holmes on the show today. She's so amazing. Like, if you have any desire to grow the sales in your business, which if you don't even have that desire, that's a problem. You need to listen because Amanda knows the secrets to growing your business. And here's the things that you need to know about Amanda. She is the CEO of Chet Holmes International. If you don't know who Chet Holmes is, he is the founder, owner, creator of the Ultimate Sales Machine. And Amanda, I'm getting lost in my bio here. You have worked, Chet Holmes International has worked with over 250,000 businesses worldwide when it comes to like credibility and proof and evidence that formulas and systems work. You guys have that. And at 24, Amanda inherited her father's through grief, can I add, because he passed away through, I can't remember what form of cancer, but he passed away at a young age of cancer. And you inherit this company at 24. You inherit his multi-million-dollar enterprise, which specializes in helping companies double their sales. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, Katie.
Well, and I want to add this, like at 24, you go through this experience, you lose your father who you love, you admire, you respect, and then all of a sudden, all responsibility is on your shoulders. And not only were you able to maintain the business, but you actually grew the company the next year. And then this is just absolutely amazing. I'm excited to dive into your story. And for people to really understand you, who you are, how you view the world, tell us the story of an experience that has really formed and shaped that perspective that you have.
Yeah, when you asked me that 2 seconds ago, the most defining moment I would have to say was while my father was ill. So he got leukemia and we battled for a year and a half. He spent 352 nights in the hospital and never once spent a night alone. So it was me, my brother, and my mom. We were just pulling all-nighters with him. And every day he'd fight with the doctors. Like they'd say, "You're going to die." And he'd be like, "Don't use scare tactics on me. I use my intellect. You tell me or I'll sign myself out of this hospital." So it was just this crazy experience. And then he ended up going for the bone marrow transplant. And so that meant 2 months of sitting in a very small hospital room, quarantined into a small hospital room. And my father was larger than life, worked with 60 of the Fortune 500 as clients, the biggest of companies in the world he's assisted. And yet now he can't leave those four walls. And I'll never forget, I walked into the room and he was sitting and looking out the window and he looked very deep in thought. And I came over and said, "What's going on? Are you okay?" And he said, "For all the wealth I've amassed, nothing can buy my way out of this hospital room." Yeah, I never forgot that. So when I inherited the company, that image, along with many others, just kept cycling through my head. And I just kept feeling like, if I step into this, I'm going to be stepping into a grave right next to my father. He died at 55, right? The pressure was too much.
Yeah.
So I actually, for several years, for 2 years, I hired and fired different C-suites, CEO, CTO, CMO, president, just trying to fill the void of my father not being there. I mean, he wasn't part of the day-to-day. He had 9 companies that all had heads who reported to one CEO who reported to him. So there was, hundreds of people in the organization, but losing that heart, and the whole business was Chet Holmes International, right? It's built on him as the brand. So without that heart, the whole body just couldn't function. So it took 2 years of growing the chutzpah to step in.
Yeah. And you did it. Like, it's absolutely incredible. The other thing that I have noticed about you is, it would be one thing to kind of fill that position and do it out of obligation, out of duty. But the impression that I get from you is you're there because you want to be, right? That you have your own drive and desire. And the other thing that I'm seeing is like your dad had his gifts and talents and abilities and expertise. And, he launched the book, was it 25 years ago, in a time when the internet didn't exist, right? So like a lot has changed in that period of time. And you've been able to bring your unique skill set and ability and really apply the principles to today's world. So I want to ask you the question, like, what is working now for entrepreneurs when it comes to really driving quality leads and conversion? What's working now?
Yes. Well, thank you, by the way. That's very kind of you to say. So when my father first came out with the book, it was 15 years ago. The average company would be on 7 different marketing mediums on average.
Okay.
Today, we're on an average of 13 marketing mediums with 5 social media platforms and 3 paid advertising sites. So we're doing double the amount of work, but for a fraction of the result, because there's 3.8 billion social media pages today, all competing with trying to get the attention of the prospects. So if you feel like, wow, over time, it's just gotten harder and harder to get their attention. Yes, it's because there's so much more clutter. We call it the clutter factor. My father called it the clutter factor 20 years ago. It's even more than he could have ever fathomed. So what we really have to do is we have a whole system around this, the ultimate sales machine method. So if you're feeling like I can't get through to my prospect, I don't know where they are, why can't I generate more leads that even lead me to the sales? Step number 1 is understanding who is your ideal client. That is step number 1. And majority of companies say, yeah, I know who I market to, but I will tell you that it is the biggest misunderstanding that majority of companies actually don't do. We have a 47-point checklist for how to determine your dream client because it's that intricate to really understand. Because I'll give you an example. So my father made his big break working for a billionaire by the name of Charlie Munger, co-chairman of Berkshire Hathaway.
No big deal.
Yeah. Whatevs. So we doubled the sales for Charlie in 9 different companies, all within 12 to 15 months, and several of them multiple years in a row. So we followed this system. He was given a list of 2,200 potential prospects and said, okay, go cold call those. Back then it was cold calling instead of cold emailing or Instagram DM, whatever. So he analyzed that list and he realized that only 167 of them purchased 95% of the space. Wow. So instead of going after the 2,200, he led an intensive. This is where the Dream 100 was born. Dream 100 was focusing on just those Dream 167 clients. Now it took time. It took 4 months of not getting a single sale, which
4 months.
Right. Right.
Wow.
So people started talking, who's this sales expert? And yet he can't close a barn door. Right. But he was going after the biggest, best clients. So in the 5th month, he closed the largest contract that the industry had ever seen, Xerox. Xerox came into the fold. And then after that, doubled 28 more and continued. This is a process that if you can identify who is that one person that could completely change your world, just that one. And if you had the focus and the clarity of mind to be in their face, in their place, in their space, everywhere around them, which today we have. When I do a Dream 100, I send them a text message. I send them an email. I send them a voice note. I write them on Instagram DM. I send them a message on LinkedIn. I've written them on Facebook. They cannot avoid me. They're like, I give this woman credit just for the fact that she will not leave me alone. She's everywhere. I want to be everywhere, but I don't have to be everywhere for everyone. I want to be everywhere to the people that matter the most, that are going to take me and double my sales. So it's a continuation of being focused and determined to follow those few keys. You don't even need 100 today.
Yeah.
With 12, you could do it with 1.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm hearing is as a business coach, I get to see just how close my clients sometimes are to getting really big results. And the difference is just this little nuance, like this little detail. What I'm hearing you say is we're missing the nuance of our ideal customer and client. And through your 47-step list, qualifications process for identifying, like if people can go the extra mile and bridge that gap, that extra little piece is going to make a big difference. And then focusing in on those top individuals and getting in front of them, being a part of their world.
Yes. And if anybody wanted that checklist, if you go to ultimatesalesmachine.com, if you purchase the book, it gives you the opportunity to get that 47-point checklist just right below it, just a little
Which
bump.
I just did, by the way.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited about it. So excited because, like you said, the book first came out 15 years ago, and you have updated it, which is super important because, like we said previously, the internet was just starting to come online.
Yep.
And I mean, I started my business about 15 years ago. And yeah, I think that was barely when I was starting to sign up for Amazon. And the only people on Facebook were weird high school kids. Like, so much has changed in the world since then. And so my hope is in this updated version, there's a lot more application to the internet and social media.
Yes. So I'll give you an example of that. So
Okay.
when my father taught Dream 100, when he was figuring out how to be in everywhere, he would cold call them, he would fax them, and he would send them direct mail, which, I mean, people still do it today and they love it. And they call the Dream 100 the thing you do with direct mail. And it's like, okay, that's great, but you're missing the point here. Yes, you can do direct mail because majority of people aren't doing direct mail. So if you send something, I have my direct mail piece right here. If you send something in the mail, talk about awesome. Who wouldn't open that? That's freaking hysterical, right? And I have a little dinosaur, and my letter says, did you know that 60% of companies that closed during COVID never reopen? Would you like to avoid extinction for the next economic turn? Then you'll need the new edition of the Ultimate Sales Machine. And I send chapter 4. So this is effective, but I'll tell you another way that I implement Dream 100 today. So I met a guy that was a dream client for me, and he gave me the cold shoulder at an event. And I thought, oh my gosh, no matter what, I'm going to win this guy as a client, whatever I have to do. So I asked him, where does he spend his most time online? And he said, Instagram. I went, okay, great. Followed him on Instagram. He followed me back on Instagram. And then it started. Every single day he posted, I would reply. Every single day. So, and luckily he had a company that was doing that, but I could tell that he was also in there replying. So he would post about his children. He made a bet that they couldn't go without sugar for 24 hours, and they weren't able to. They like only lasted like 2 hours. Yeah. And I replied back, I'm like, you should have charged him double. That was hilarious. Right. And then he posted something about his wife seeing Christmas lights, and she looked so happy. And I looked at that, I went, you got to give your wife Christmas lights like multiple times a year for the amount of joy she has to Christmas lights, right? So what am I doing? I'm in his face, in his place, in his face. Every single thing he posts, I comment on, but I'm not just being a bot. I'm showing that I care. I'm talking about his kids. I'm talking about his wife. I'm talking about his business. I'm adding value. I'm finding more ways to add value. He posted about boots and how he was about to climb a mountain. And I said, I've climbed Kilimanjaro I did it with new boots, and it wrecked my feet. So make sure you wear in those boots before you go up. So what am I doing? I'm showing him, instead of just telling him I'm trustworthy, I'm reliable, I will show up when I need to. I am already doing that with every comment. I'm building rapport, building trust, building respect, so that he honors my opinion, because I've continually done it over and over and over again with these little micro comments until 3 months in. I did this for 3 months straight of every day commenting on everything. I mean, if I tried to cold call him, how would I get a hold of somebody that has 100 staff and try to, hey, let's be friends? Like, how do you do that? It's a cold email, but with social, we have an infinite amount of information that we can utilize. So 3 months in, his team reaches out and says, hey, we'd like to send out 650 of your Ultimate Sales Machine books to our best clients. Is that okay? I went, yeah, that sounds really difficult, but I think we can make it work. Right?
Let's see what we can do.
I'm still reaping the benefits of that. And that was 6 years ago. So Dream 100 has evolved. So the strategy of identifying who is that one person that could completely change your world is one thing, but then how do we go about it? The tactics have just changed, right? So my father did cold calling. Yeah.
Wait, I have to jump in here because I need to make sure people are hearing this, because Amanda, I get so many Instagram and Facebook DMs. Hi, Katie, my name's John. Let me tell you about my service. And it's like over and over. And I'm like, John, will you scroll up? This is the third time you've sent this to me. Like, right. And yet you have done the opposite. First of all, you're showing up like a human, and you are building a relationship with somebody utilizing social. Nobody would ever walk up to a stranger on the street and say, hi, my name's Tom. Let me tell you about my business and how I can help you. Right. And yet you intentionally, strategically developed a real human relationship by acknowledging what was going on in his life, including what was going on with his wife and his kids, acknowledging cool things that he was involved in. Then 3 months in, he comes to you. You didn't even
Right. So the
say
point,
anything to him. You didn't sell him.
the point is to create top of mind awareness. That is what we're doing online. I love
Yeah.
that you're saying this, and I was looking for a diagram because it talks to exactly what you're talking about, which is the second step to deploying the ultimate sales machine method. Hold on. Oh, I can't find it. Okay. So if you are reaching out and so this is when I'm saying you, it's not you, Katie, it's to
Sure.
everybody else that's listening. So I'm not like, Katie. Okay. But if you are reaching out, let's say you're posting on your Facebook page, let's say you have an ad, you're harassing Katie in a LinkedIn message. If you are talking about yourself, your product or service, you will only get 3% of the marketplace. You know why they keep doing it? Because on average, they will know that if they send 100 emails, 3
Yeah.
people will be in the buying now category. So they'll
Yeah.
say, oh, yes, I am looking for that. Thank you so much. But I will tell you that you are missing out on 90% of that. If we think, so my father invented this. It's I think I have a picture of it. It is, if you could draw
It's in here, isn't it?
yes, it is in there. I was trying to look for it. If you draw a triangle and you just
I
put
mean,
a
here's-
line at the top 3%, did you find it? What page it's on?
I was just looking at
I
it.
found it. Okay, 65. So if you
Okay,
draw,
there it is.
if you draw a triangle at the top 3% is the buying now category. Oh,
Mhm.
now we've all just, oh my God. This is difficult, but I will explain to you what's on here. So there's
Yeah.
3% that are buying now, 7% that
Yeah.
are open to it, 30% that think that they're not interested in what you have to sell, 30% that are know that they're not interested, and the last 30% are definitely not interested. So 90%, if you're just talking about you, you're missing out. So what we teach is if you educate them on what's of interest to them, not what you're selling, where they're at,
Yes.
if you meet them where they
Yes.
are, then you can
Yes.
educate them up into the buying now category. Ooh, it's backwards for me. If you bring
Yeah.
them up into the buying now category so that you get not, because everyone's competing for that 3%. So all your
Yes.
competition is competing for the 3%. So why don't we educate them with something of value?
You know, one of the reasons why people don't do this, they're so antsy and anxious for the sale. And by doing that, they ruin the opportunity. There's another 97% that potentially could get there if you could just take a breath, be patient, and be a human being and follow the process of the ultimate sales machine. And the other thing that I see so frequently is, people do these like short-term things. And what happens is you built a short-term business and you're constantly chasing another dollar. And if you could look at it more long-term and play the long game, yes, it's a little bit painful at first. It might be like you have to be patient those 3 months that you keep interacting and saying, hey, love those Christmas lights, right? You have to be a little bit patient, but it pays off exponentially if you can just be a little patient and be a human being.
Well, so let me give you can I give an example?
Yeah, do.
Client, so it kind of like lands. So we had a client that sold high-end real estate out of Dubai, and they were going through a market blackout. Like they went from 17 million a year to zero. They didn't sell one high-end condo, and they were selling to Fortune 500 CEOs because their average condo was $5 million to $10 million. And it was a second home. It wasn't their first home. So,
right. And they paid cash.
Right.
They do.
Hilarious. So how do we get the attention of a billionaire? That was the question that we had to figure out. So when we did some research on billionaires, we realized that the thing that kept them up at night was their health and being able to have enough time. So the average Fortune 500 CEO gets 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night instead of what doctors recommend, which is 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. And lack of sleep links to the increase of stress by like 75%. And then when you're stressed, the likelihood of you getting cancer increases by 50%, heart disease increases by 25%, premature death is a serious issue if you have so much stress. So we started talking to them about this information, and we'd say, in a short 15 minutes, I can show you why wealthy CEOs are at risk for heart disease, diabetes, and premature death, and what you can do about it. It's purely education. It was backed by market data to show you what can truly make the difference in your life. And I'd love to give that to you. That's what we call a stadium pitch, because you want to get, that's the full buyer's pyramid. It's not an elevator pitch, it's the 3%. A stadium pitch is everyone. And they went from 0 to increasing their sales by 3,500%. It was in the high 9 figures.
That's so good.
But when we told the real estate brokers or the real estate reps, you're going to stop talking about granite countertops and ocean views, and instead you're going to talk about heart disease and premature death, they're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But there was one woman who had never sold before. She wasn't even in sales, and she was recruited, and she was taught how to talk about these things that were actually interesting to a billionaire. She closed hundreds of millions of dollars herself just by using this approach of talking about what's of interest to your prospect instead of talking about you.
Which, listen, it's human nature. Allow myself to introduce myself, right? Like, I just want to talk about me. I think Brian Regan calls it the me monster. It's just me. And just take a breath, take your eyeballs off of yourself, pay attention to who's in front of you, because they have needs. So one of the things that I wanted to hear more about, as you are re-releasing this book, you created this incredible video that is a letter to your dad. Like, I get emotional and choked up just thinking about it, Amanda. It was amazing. I'm not going to cry. It was so incredible. And like, that's definitely a core tenet to the ultimate sales machine, is like really understanding your core story and being able to utilize that. And one of the things that you're adding to this new rendition is a bonus chapter, which has so much heart to it, and yet I still know nothing about it. So can you tell us how you discovered the content of this, and then what is going in this bonus chapter?
Yeah. So it took me 4 years to write the new edition. It was not a slow feat. And because when I first said yes to Penguin, they kept asking, because we sell so many copies, because people just love it so much, which is very rare for a book to continue for a decade, right? Average book, like 900 copies or something. So when they said yes, and I went out and I said, hey guys, what do you want to see in a new edition? They went, nothing. It's perfect. Don't touch it. That was the replies that I got. So the pressure was on. It was intense. And it was right before I was supposed to send in the manuscript of the new edition. It was the night before I rented a hotel, and I was sitting, because the way I learned my father's business was reading his emails, because he passed before he could tell me anything about it. So I was reading things just like, please help me find something. I gotta give Penguin something good. And I found this letter where he said, I've generated more wealth in the last 6 months than the previous 8 years combined. And it's because of this one thing.
Oh my God.
I went, victory, jackpot. Now it still took a whole nother year and a half to actually come finish it, because taking that was my father's message. But as the more that I sat with it, the more I realized those moments in the hospital and the man that he became at the end of his life was something that he didn't really get to share with the rest of the world, because he did so much inner reflection when he got diagnosed. He went to figure out why did this cancer happen? I want to overcome this by using my mind, because I know that I'm powerful enough to do that. And so over the last 10 years, I've taken what he learned and implemented it into my life. So I had to blend and bridge these two worlds together of what he had said and what I have lived. So I study under an Indian saint. It feels a little bit random because I'm born in the US, but underneath my skin, I'm actually Indian. I eat like an Indian. I pray like an Indian, because of her influence has been so beautiful. Her formal title is Sarvalokama, Her Holiness Shri 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 1008 Guruji Punamji, but I just call her Guruji. It's long because it's a very high honor. So Guruji had told me once, I asked her, what should the new edition of the book what is the most important thing that I need people to know? I'm struggling with what to do here. And she said, you know, if you want fruit, if you want, a sale, imagine it's a tree and you're going up to a tree and you can take an axe and you can chop down the tree and you can chop off its branches and you can grab that apple and you can eat that apple. But you've done it with force and you've done it with anger and you've done it with brute strength. Or you can go up to a tree, look at its beauty, bow in humbleness, get a stool, step up it, grab that apple. And in both instances, you have an apple, but in one, you did it with humility and gratitude. And that apple will be so much sweeter than the one that you did in anger and pressure and force. So I'm getting chills just talking about it.
Amazing.
So the final chapter, How to Live a Rich and Full Life, is just the difference of what is the intention that you go about each and every step of your day. If you step into trying to get a sale by pushing it, by being manipulative, 97% of prospects feel that salespeople are too pushy today. You have to come up with a different approach. If you are coming from a place of, I'd like to serve you, what can I do to lift you up? How can I be a resource for you? That will bear that fruit in a completely different manner. And because of that, it tied perfectly into what my father had in that letter, saying that when I changed myself from my whole life, I've pressured and I've forced and I've closed the sale by pushing. But because of that, I was never truly happy. So if there's one thing that I want everyone to take away from the new edition, it's that we can generate far greater wealth monetarily, emotionally, mentally, if we come at it from a place of service, if we come at it from a place of gratitude. I doubled our coaching clients 2 years in a row from taking this whole concept of, I went up to my guru and it was right after a webinar, and she knows nothing about these things, right? She's like an enlightened being, so she doesn't really care about. She saw that I was sad though, and she said, "What's wrong?" And I said, I just had a webinar and I didn't close much, so it was kind of frustrating. And she said, "Close? What do you mean close?" And I said, a sale, you close like a vice. And she looked very perplexed. And I'm like, what did I say something wrong? She said, "Well, if you're trying to win their business, why would you ever put pressure? Closing puts pressure on them. Why wouldn't you want to plant a seed and grow an orchard? Because you have the ability to do that. So let's plant seeds and grow orchards." And from that, just something in my head clicked where I just can't say close anymore. We're growing, we're planting seeds to nurture. And that shift made me increase our close rate by 1,100% and doubled our coaching clients 2 years in a row. And that it's just these little shifts in our mind that make all the difference. Everything that my father taught is the same. It's just the intention is different, and it all works even better. And the fruit is even more sweet at the end of the day.
Amanda, I am so excited to read this chapter. Intention is something that has been on my radar the past several years, and I'm constantly noticing how significantly it impacts an outcome. And I have clients who say, "Katie, it's the wildest thing," because I help them shift their intention. I'm doing the same things I was doing before, and yet the outcome is totally different. And I feel better, I'm happier, and like things are working better. And so, and the thing that shifted was the intention. So this is the thing that your father discovered. Previously, he was trying to force things. And in that 6-month window, he had shifted his intention to service, giving, planting seeds. And that intention generated more wealth. And that's the wild thing about it, Amanda, is it's way less hard, right? Because the force isn't there. You don't have to keep pushing.
Right.
It's different. You show up totally different. And you get an outcome that doesn't make logical sense. It's such a paradox, because you're like, if I had to work that hard to get this outcome, that means I need to work twice as hard. And so many entrepreneurs and CEOs get caught in this trap. And so I am so excited to read about this chapter and the wisdom that you have gained by watching your father and seeing that shift that he experienced. That's amazing.
Thank you. It's been a strange journey, but I think that that's also an important thing to recognize. And I battle with it every day of realizing that we all have our own unique abilities, right? And regardless of what the whole world tells us to do or what should be or what our friends say or what our clients say or what our family says we are who we should be, it's up to us to determine that. And that's the gift that we get if we give ourselves the permission to do so. Like, for instance, I recently, you saw me with this, I bought a 4-foot billboard and I wore it as a backpack. And
it lights up, by the way. It's not just a billboard. It lights up. It's so good.
So everyone was like, you're so brave. I don't know why I could never do that. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Like, why wouldn't you want to do this? I was the talk of every trade show that I went to because I had this I mean, they shut me down on the last day of traffic and conversion because I generated more sales and more buzz than the booths.
And you didn't pay for booths.
I know. That's what they were like. Well, this is unfair. You know. So I think I might have to pay.
You found a competitive advantage, so we need to stop that.
All right. It was hilarious, but it was really honestly me being my true self. Like I lit up at the idea of, and I was handing out chapter 4s. So people would come up and they'd see and they'd be like, oh yeah, I know that book. I love that book. I've read it 5 times. I'm like, my father wrote this book. I've written the new edition. Here you go. And I just like Christmas morning on their faces every time over and over again. Seeing that joy was just me in my natural element. And
I mean, you were following some of the principles inside of the book, which is to stand out. You were standing out in a unique and fun and bright way, which is so awesome. You mentioned how the publishers are still fascinated with the fact that this book is still selling so many copies. What are the elements that you think this book and this process to have such staying power over the years? Because there's so many marketing and sales books out there, and consistently this is a go-to. Why do you think that is?
So my father, well, let me start with a question. Okay, what percentage of companies, and stop me if I told you this, what percentage of companies do you think make it to $1 million in annual sales?
It's pretty small, like 3%.
You're close. It's 5%. 5% of companies make it to $1 million. So 95% don't. Of that, 0.08% make it to 5 million. Of that, 1.5% make it to 10 million, and 0.004% make it to 100 million and beyond. Wow. So, and when we think of that, so let's say there's 2 hamburger joints that start on the same block in 1967. Joe's Hamburgers, mom and pop shop, they put all this love into their hamburgers, and then another one by the name of McDonald's. Now, 40 years later, we look back, or 60 years later, and one still has a job and a single location, and the other one is the largest grossing hamburger joint in the world. But my question, is that burger better at McDonald's than it is at Joe's hamburger joint? No, mom and pop shop, they're putting all their love into every hamburger.
Yeah.
So we think that it's our product or service that's going to get us from 1 million to 5, from 5 million to 10, from 10 to 100 million and beyond, but it actually isn't. It's the skills it takes to go from 1 million to 5, from 5 to 10. And at each step, you might even have to break the skill set that it took you. Like you could strong arm your way to $1 million where the CEO is closing all the sales, but then to get to 5 million, you probably won't have the bandwidth. I mean, some kind of sometimes make it to 5, but to get to 10, they have to start hiring sales reps. They have to then train somebody else to start selling, right? And then there's systems and processes that need to be built to make sure that all of that is fulfilled. So it's actually a very few amount of skills that it takes to grow a business. So my father is famous for saying, mastery isn't about doing 4,000 different things. It's about doing 12 things 4,000 times. So each chapter of this book is another skill set on how to double your sales. Time management, because we all have the same 24 hours in a day. But so why are billionaires billionaires? Because they're smarter about their time. You have to be a master at time. How to run an effective meeting. 56 million ineffective meetings happen every single day just in the US. Right? Majority of companies don't know how to run an effective meeting. How will you ever create change or growth in your organization if you're ineffective at your meetings?
Yeah.
Then we get into what I taught, right? About Dream 100. Who are you targeting? How are you speaking to them? The messaging of the core story. So each one of these chapters is so brilliant. And it's just about the single most important thing you need to succeed in business is pig-headed discipline and determination. So that repetition of going back, getting better. So that's why so many people keep coming back to the book. I very often hear, I've read that book 3 times, 4 times. I read it every year to just sharpen the tools in my shed. It's because he perpetually repeats over and over again, you will master this if you do it over and over and over again.
I love the thing that I'm hearing you say is that, you know, to go from 1 million to 5 to 10 to 100, it's a skill, and that it is learnable. And we have to master these 12 things, and you master them by doing them over and over and over again. Like that brings so much hope and possibility to anybody who's building a business.
Absolutely. And there's a framework, right? It's been proven. You don't have to invent the wheel. It's already there.
Yeah. Amanda, this has just been absolutely amazing. There's so much more that I want to ask you. I'm like looking at all of my questions that I had. Like you have this whole formula for developing your core story, which we talked about, really identifying your ideal client. I know we can't dive into all these things, but what are some of the other like main topics that you guys address at Chet Holmes International?
It's a great question. So one thing that me and my team have realized is that when my father came out with the book, obviously it was before the internet. So he had all 12 of these competencies on how to double sales. And as I look and think of what's the future of CHI, I realize that to be an expert in all 12 is a lot of things to be an expert for. So I've done over the last few years, I've focused on being more, I've niched into, let's really focus on who with the Dream 100, how to speak it to them with education-based marketing, or what we call a core story. And then how do we truly implement that? So from that, so majority of people, they read the book, they love it. They go, wow, how do I implement this into my business? So we run boot camps that bring a bunch of people, a bunch of businesses together in a virtual environment. And we teach them how to use what they learned in the book in their business. Then we have one-on-one coaching to guide them. And then we have done for you if they say, well, we know you'll do it better. You just take over and let's do this so we can get there faster. So that's really where I've honed in and focused to make sure that companies are growing, and we don't have to be an expert at everything. Obviously, the coaches are familiar with all of our 12 core competencies, but helps to have a little bit.
I'm just going to add, if you're listening, you need the book. So go right now, ultimatesalesmachine.com, go purchase the book. There's going to be some really cool opportunities once you purchase that book. If there's more, I mean, Amanda essentially just shared with you other ways that they can help you, and you have a chance to get a really good deal on some of those after you purchase the book. Amanda, where can people contact you, follow you?
Well, I'm everywhere on the social medias, but my favorite is Instagram. And Amanda Holmes was taken, so I had to use my salsa name, which is Amandita Holmes. So Amandita Holmes on Instagram is my handle.
Awesome. And we'll have a link to that in the show notes. Amanda, do you have a couple minutes to answer a few rapid fire questions?
Yes, let's do it.
What is something that you do consistently every day?
Sing.
Get out. I did not know this about you. Oh, look at that. Play us a song.
Yeah, no,
it was just right there. Do you write your own pieces, or you like to do a cover?
I do a lot. I pretty much only sing things that elevate my mind. So positive. I do a lot of Sanskrit chants because it's been proven to increase your brain capacity. So
That's so cool. I love
Yeah,
it.
thanks. Yeah.
What's a book that you love, you keep on your nightstand and you revisit it frequently?
I mean, if I can't say Ultimate Sales Machine, that's kind of crazy. That is pretty much, it's been my world for so long now, I have to say
Yeah.
that.
Well, hey, I don't blame you. It's a great one. What is some good advice that you've been given in your life that really helped you in a critical moment?
My guru was the one that said, you can step in as CEO, you can do it. And I looked at her like, you're crazy, but she just
I
kept
mean,
saying. So
I
having,
wondered that, how you had the confidence to step in.
I believe in her. So having a brilliant mentor, someone like
Mm,
Katie, or
or Amanda.
yeah, somebody that can see your blind spots and push you to go beyond what you thought is possible. That's critical to me in my life.
I love it. Amanda, this has been absolutely incredible. I'm really excited to get the book. Really excited I actually even signed up for your boot camp. So I'm really excited to hop inside of there. 'Cause I
Oh,
thought maybe, I don't know if you're in there or not, but I'm excited to see your process and to learn more from the wisdom of the Ultimate Sales Machine. So for everybody listening, this is what's working now.